Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jeannie Borum with Signworld team, introducing you to our webinar today on this very early part of January. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope you all had a wonderful, safe, and healthy holiday season with family and friends. And we're excited to start 2022. And what better to do that but to start off with a webinar for all of you interested in the Signworld opportunity to learn more about it. So just to give a quick overview of the agenda for today for our participants, we're going to have our owners of our panels, or our panel of owners, introduce themselves and give a little bit of their background and overview of their business today, so you understand more about them. And then we're going to give you participants an opportunity to ask any single question. We ask you to keep it to somewhat of a simple question and to keep it to a single one, to allow time for us to give every participant an opportunity to ask a single question. We'll go around and have each of the panelists answer that question, so you'll get multiple perspectives. And we'll go in the order of when you logged into the session. So Derek, I think you were the first, Ben, you were the second, Brent, you were the third, and we'll go through the order. So if Ben and Derek can think of their first questions, that'd be great. And if time permits, we'll go back around again to the top of the hour, again, as time permits. So with that said, what we first like to do is allow our panelists to introduce themselves. So Roger, can we start with you?
Sure. My name is Roger Carroll. I own Cowtown Graphics and Signs. We're located in Fort Worth, Texas, which is part of the DFW Metro, considered the North Texas market. This is our 9th year in business. We just moved into 10,000 square feet, literally about 6 months ago. We have 13 employees. Our 2022 sales projection is 1.7 million. My biggest customer is Alcon, which is the largest eye care device company in the world. However, yesterday we received our largest single order ever. That's $106,000 and a $53,000 deposit check, all in the same day, for a rebrand on 7 shooting sports stores in the Texas area. My background, for 25 years, I sold embellished apparel.
Fantastic.
For me.
Thank you, Roger. We appreciate that. Mike, can we go ahead with you?
Sure. My name is Mike Riley. Our business is called Starfish Signs and Graphics, and we're based in Orange County in Southern California. We service a good part of Southern California, but a lot of that is centered in Orange County. We've been in business, it will be 10 years in June, so coming up on 10 years for us. Our facility is about 4,500 square feet, and we have, adding together full-time and part-time and so forth, we have 5 employees. We're actually still working on our 2022 plan, but I think we'll end up with a sales target of 1.25 million. We booked 1.1 million in the prior year, so we are looking for some growth over that. Not sure exactly where we'll settle out. Biggest customer, I'll do by number of jobs, not necessarily by dollars. We have a very large commercial building owner in Southern California that we do about 100 projects a year with, and they've been a customer of ours for about 5 years. My background career, my training is biochemical engineering, so sort of half in that area, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, diagnostics, et cetera, and then half in electronics. And then I was retired for a year, and now I'm doing this.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike. Hamid?
Hey, good morning. So my name is Hamid Lalani, and I am working here in the Research Triangle Park area, the Triangle area in North Carolina. It's bounded by the cities of Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. We have a facility here which is about 2,450 square feet. And this is, I'm a relative newbie. I started in, I think I started on July 4th weekend of 2019. So we're in our third year. And I think we've been very fortunate to be in the Raleigh market. It's hard not to make money here. Everything is growing and booming. So we crossed $1.1 million last year with 3 employees. And we just hired a 4th one now. So we have 4 employees that include myself. And my biggest customer last year will probably not be my biggest customer next year, but my biggest customer last year was a San Francisco-based biotech company that is building a factory here in North Carolina called Audentes. And as luck would have it, they got bought by a Japanese company. So they bought the signs all over again because they changed their name. So that's why we had them as the biggest customer. We made 2 sets of signs of about $70,000 each twice. We hope they get bought again, but I'm counting on that, but I'm not really depending on that. And next year, we are hoping that we will have some more business with a large private equity daycare center out of Chicago. They're buying up all the daycare centers and consolidating them and changing their names in the Southeast market. So we are fortunately ready to take them kind of to the next level. But I'm trying to make all kinds of mistakes as much as I can while the market is going good.
Fantastic. And what's your background, Hamid?
Oh, yes. So I'm a Silicon Valley guy. I sold my last company to HP in the software space, in the data center space. And I decided I will never do software again. So I love sign business.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Jack?
I am Jack Warner. I joined Signworld back in 1995 when we were still a cut vinyl banner shop at a retail location using the yellow pages. So the world's changed a little bit since I joined. I started in 1,100 square feet with 1 employee. I grew to 5,000 square feet with a staff of 11 doing 1.3 million in sales. I then sold that operation to go into a process to join Ken, our founder, partnership arrangement for about 7-8 years. Finished buying him out 7.5 years ago. I'm now the present owner of Signworld, and Ken has stayed on in a lot of various roles in a more limited capacity. My biggest customer was a regional master franchisor for Subway with 200 locations. You would think once the Subway opens up, they're done. But if you think back over time, Subway used to be yellow on brown, then yellow on black, then yellow on green. Then they changed the font, then they changed the outline, then you change the font again every 4 years. Every one of 45,000 Subways changes every single sign inside and out. It's ever recurring. My background before that, I ran a wholesale food distribution company, nothing to do with signs. When I answer questions today, if it goes to my experience running an operation, I'll speak from that perspective. If it goes more to training and policy, I'll speak more from that perspective.
Thank you, Jack. And none of us would be here today without our founder of Signworld, Ken.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. Thank you for coming. I founded Signworld in Honolulu, Hawaii. It'll be 34 years ago in 20 days from now, January 25th, 34 years ago. The reason I chose the sign business was I wanted to make the most amount of money I could make with the fewest number of employees during normal, regular business hours. And we all know today that the bottleneck is employees. Everybody, no matter what business you're in, no matter how big or how small you are, you're having a hard time finding employees. And here's a business where you can make a lot of money with very few employees. If you look at it compared to all the other franchises that you may be looking at. Today is your opportunity to ask those hardball questions. Whatever is your greatest fear, whatever is your greatest concern, turn that into a simple, open-ended question and let each of our owners answer that question from their perspective, from their experience. Go ahead, Jeannie.
Thank you, Ken. All right, now it's time for those questions. So as I said in the very beginning, if you can keep it to one question to start with, we'll rotate through. I believe, Derek Oliver, you're also the A42. Is that correct, Sheree? You can just nod your head. Are they the one and
I
the
guess
same?
so. I thought I changed my name back to myself, but sorry.
It's okay. We see you logged in twice, so just making sure you're the same person. So Derek, if you can introduce yourself, share with us where you're from, and go ahead with that first question to ask our owners today.
For sure. Derek Oliver from Calgary, Alberta, where it's a balmy minus 30 degrees Celsius with wind chill about minus 39. So almost equal in Fahrenheit for all you Americans. So it's really nice here. 45 years old, married with a 3-year-old daughter, come from the banking and auction world of all things, but it's time to go out on my own. The first question I really have, but I'm hearing it from everyone, is that everyone's coming from a whole lot of different areas and backgrounds, which is very good. For everyone coming from outside, how long did it take them to start feeling comfortable with the terminology and the equipment and the product?
Great question. Love it. Thank you, Derek. And I must say, I'm from Wisconsin, unlike all these others in warm climates, so I'm freezing with you. I, in fact, have a blanket on my lap, so I hear what you're saying. So with that said, yes, learning the sign business is a whole nother learning curve. Mike, why don't we start with you? How did you learn it? How quickly did you get up to speed and feel comfortable in it?
Well, a couple things. What we always tell new employees is there's nothing that we do that's rocket science, but everything requires attention to detail. And that's kind of how I see the business. So, and then one other data point that might be interesting. We had an employee who worked in the sign industry for over 20 years. And he said that on any given day, 70% of what he did, he had never seen before. So I think that's the nature of custom business. But in terms of feeling conversant and, understanding the terminology and being able to interact with customers, for me, it was probably, 2 to 3 years before I felt comfortable, but maybe that says more about me than about, what's required.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. How about you, Hamid?
I'm kind of in the same experience that I had, as Mike mentioned. We don't look ourselves as a sign company. We actually position ourselves as a message company. We are the company that will help you get your message across. And signs are just tools to get that message across. And fortunately, what I found is that most decision makers in our business have not spent a lot of time thinking about signs when they start to buy it. Very rarely do you run into people who are purchase manager signs. I've never seen that. I haven't seen that title anywhere. But when I was at HP, I could see purchase manager ERP, purchase manager this. And some of these people were doing the same thing 40 years. But this is really a neat business. You can actually know more than your customer within 3 to 4 months. And then you can really start adding value immediately. And that's a very good, satisfying experience for them. Because you can really help them, because not that they're not smart, it's just that they have many other things to worry about than signs. And you can actually really solve your problem. And that, I think, is a good way to look at this.
Very good. Thank you, Hamid. Roger?
Well, I had spent 25 years putting corporate logos on shirts, jackets, and headwear. So when I looked at the sign business, I said, how big a stretch could it be to be putting corporate logos on glass, acrylic, and aluminum? And it turns out it's really not. And it's like Mike says, it's all about the details. So it takes, it didn't take me long at all to be able to speak it, walk it, sell it. But to feel comfortable executing, that took a couple of years. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Roger. Jack?
There's nobody in 34 years joining Signworld that, looks like my camera's frozen here, that had sign experience. So you're the normal candidate. No matter what we train you on initial training, the first customer is going to ask you for something that we didn't train you on because it's all custom. So you got to be able to ask questions and then be able to say to the customer, let me go back to my office. I'll put a proposal back together, walk out of the office, go, I don't know what I'm going to do. But knowing on the way back to the office, I've got 300 Signworld owners that'll help me, corporate staff that'll help me, a roster of suppliers that'll help me. But getting back to your office, the sign maker you hired that has 15 years of experience, you're going to say, why did you call anybody? Here's how we do it. Here's where we buy it. You just be able to have to fake it until you make it. And over time, you'll always know more than the customer knows. And you go from there.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Ken, anything to add to that?
In the beginning, you're going to start with the small and the easy stuff, and you're going to grow along the way. But in the end, it ain't rocket science. It's pretty simple stuff.
Yes, I did like that phrase from Mike. Fantastic. Okay, let's go to our next participant to go ahead with their question. Ben Howell, if you can take yourself off of mute, introduce yourself to the group and share your first question, please.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. My name is Ben Howell. Happy New Year to you. I am 42 years old this month. I work in a large corporation in the nuclear industry. I've worked in the nuclear industry my entire career. I have a mechanical engineering degree from NC State right there in RTP near Hamid. I've worked in nuclear the whole time. So mechanical engineering degree, but nuclear by trade. That's pretty much everything that I know. I am excited about Signworld in the aspect of, a highly regulated environment like a nuclear industry. Signs feels, free and like an open field to a caged animal almost. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Currently, I am based in Wilmington, North Carolina. That is about 2 hours from Raleigh, Durham, where Hamid is, right on the beach. It's a beautiful town. Love it here. Have 2 kids, one in high school and one in middle school. And my question is, coming from the corporate world like I will be, it sounds like a few of you have, how did you handle that transition to become a business owner, or when you left what you were doing before here, how did you handle that transition? I'm the sole provider for my family, so that's kind of a big thing hanging over me right now.
So Ben, just to clarify your question, is it more around the financial aspects as far as replacing that income that you're used to from corporate world, or is it about just moving from a corporate environment to being a business owner, learning how to run a small business? Which aspect are you looking at?
More the first one.
Okay.
Being in a large corporation, I would kind of run a P&L, and I have for several years, so I'm not too worried about the business aspect and watching the ins and outs and doing all of those things and interfacing with customers. Regulators are a big customer of ours, so I'm used to that. So it's more the transition, you personally, financially, how did you provide for yourself and your family during that transition to getting to cash positive to then becoming profitable?
Okay. So let's ask our panel of owners, when did you replace your corporate level income to get to that point where you can still support your family? And what did you do in the interim as you were ramping up to that point? Roger, why don't we start with you?
Well, in the beginning, I realized that, I had to, like most corporate people, I had maxed out my 401k for a couple decades. And, you push some of those chips back in for the downstroke when you buy. But I found that working with my local SCORE, which is the Service Corps of Retired Executives, and the SBA, I worked to secure some financing right off the bat. I was tired of, you get tired of putting your own money in to a certain point, and you want a partner in it. So during that period where that first year or two that it takes at least a couple of years to get to where you're feeling comfortable that yeah, I can make money doing this, and I can see light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing. At the same time, you don't want to completely deplete, your nest egg. So I took advantage of a lot of small business startup types of financing that were over a long period of time at low interest. And, before you know it, you're making money and you're paying that loan back. And then before I knew it, the loan was gone and I was on my own. So that's what I advise most new owners to do is, use so much of your money, get equity in this thing, but find a partner too. And the U.S. government will be a ready partner for you.
Very good. Thank you, Roger. Hamid?
Yeah, I probably wasn't as bright and smart as Roger. I did not spend. I think the way I looked at it was I had decided how much money I was willing to risk as a percentage of my net worth, and I decided that I will risk that much money and give it a go, and that, so when you meet with Jack and Ken and all these guys, they kind of teach you what is in front of you. And so I had enough money to not be afraid of any financial distress for at least the first 2 years of my expenses. And that I kept it on the side, including investing in the business. And now, I think I'm looking at the end of the tunnel. This was the first year we had a big problem. We had to worry about how to not pay taxes because we're going to make money. And so the money I lost in the first 2 years didn't look so bad because it's going to reduce my taxes this year. But you have to go in with, and people ask me in a different way, the same question can be asked, what if you had to do something different, what would you do? I wish I had started this a little earlier. I was 57 when I plunged in as a small business owner. I'm kind of jealous of you guys who are at 40 and 42, because I think that's a better time to do it than 57. At the moment I'm saying, oh my God, why did I waste the last 10 years at HP? I could have been doing this. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, Hamid. Are you at corporate level income today at 2.5 years in the business?
Yes. So I was, it's really not a fair question because I used to make a lot more money when I was in my 30s than I was in my 50s because I started companies and I sold companies. So it's but I definitely doing better than I was doing at HP.
Very good. Thank you very much. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, everyone's circumstances and goals are different, and being clear on that up front, I think, is important. In my situation, my objective was not to replace my previous income. It was to build an asset that I could sell, at the right point in time. So I didn't, and then even all the details associated with that. For example, from a Social Security perspective, it makes more sense for my wife to make a bigger income. She's active in the business also than it is for me. So, there's lots of considerations that go into that. But as I say, my main objective was to have a saleable asset. It wasn't to replace my income.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. How about you, Jack?
This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. If it was, everybody would be doing it. And if you're talking to another operation that will tell you it is a get-rich-quick scheme, it's probably smoke and mirrors. It's naive to think you can replace your income in the first year or two. It took you years to get to it. And the valley is only worthwhile because at the other end of it, you can be making more than you made to make up for it. You can build, as Mike said, a saleable asset that's worth multiple times what you paid for it, so that that valley is worthwhile. You really should set aside an amount of money equal to about a year's worth of living expense, not your W-2, that was pre-tax, not your net income, hopefully didn't spend it all. But what does it take for the family to live equal to 2 years? Not needing all of it, but using it to supplement years 1 and years 2, and by that time, hopefully back to normal life and on from there.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Ken, anything to add to that? You're on mute, Ken.
And the question is, when did I get back to corporate income? In my previous career, I was making $240,000 a year, which is 20 grand a month. In the sign world, I started taking a $20,000 paycheck month 20, and I never looked back. By the way, our guest today, A4268802, is one of my candidates. It's Chris Engler, KrisEngler. Chris is in Alberta, Canada. And let's let the others ask their questions first while Chris gets his questions together. Go ahead.
All right, very good. Thanks for sharing that. So our next participant, Brent Kelly, if you can go ahead off of mute, share where you're from and go ahead with your first question.
Sure. Good afternoon, Brent Kelly. I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and sort of like Wilmington. It's beautiful here. We have both the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. So and we live right on the Chesapeake Bay, although it's a little muggy today, but it's a lot better weather than Wisconsin. Sorry, Jeannie, but I know what it's like there. So I'm excited about the Signworld business and I've heard really good things. The question I wanted to ask today was, if you could go back to your first year in business, what would you wish that you knew then that you know now, and how to accelerate growth in your business?
Very good question. Common one as well. Let's go ahead with Mike. First year in business, what would you do differently if you knew now what you knew then?
Well, back then I didn't know how to sell. And, you know, I heard from a couple people already who maybe can relate to this, but, you know, I spent my whole career working as an engineer. We don't talk to people, right? We don't interact with people. We don't have to do that. I like the fact that somebody's name was a 12-digit number before, you know, that I can relate to. So for me, it was learning how to sell. And the interesting part of that, like almost everything in this business, it has nothing to do really with what's happening on the outside, right? It's more about what I'm comfortable doing or what I am willing to try and learn, and new areas I'm willing to address and so forth. So that was the learning for me.
Okay, very good. Hamid?
Well, I actually have already said, I wish I was younger than what I'm now when I started. That's one thing. But the other more tactical thing I have learned since then is you have to be leaning forward in a growth market. And I wish I had hired people before I needed them and attract, you know, the kind of people. But, you know, I'm still kind of, our culture is still very forming. I don't know how we will all fit together. We're kind of forming at the same time. Yeah, so I have my intentions are to actually have a clear understanding of what it means to be a Mercury Signs employee and how to succeed here, very clearly spelled out. And then go and get some fun people so that we can grow faster.
Very good. Thank you, Hamid. Roger?
You know, I think that Jack mentioned it quickly in passing, but it was a Yellow Pages world like eons ago, right? Mm-hmm. And when I started in 2014, I wished I had embraced digital marketing quicker. I wished I had just given Google the money quicker, because that's how people find you in this. It's not like trying to find a dentist where you're asking your neighbors and everything. To find a sign guy when you need a sign, the one time in your life you may need a sign, you pick up the yellow pages, or you go online and you Google somebody close to you, or somebody that has signs look like what you're looking for, or whatever. I wished I had embraced that a little quicker, and that's my ad on that.
Very good, Jack.
I'm going to take Roger's answer and take it to a little different mindset. We talk about the high level of volume we're able to get from the internet, that 67, 80% of the new business come from the website. The challenge with that is we can very easily become too dependent on that. We're very transactional, rather than really trying to leverage those customers that already believe in us, that have other contacts that they know. In other words, it's no customer should be a dead end. Every customer should be able to get you to somebody else. And getting Signworld owners to go back into the database you already have and cultivate that. It's a challenge because they're too distracted with the next lead coming in from the internet.
Very good. Ken, anything to add?
Would have started younger in life.
Very, very good. Okay, let's go to our next guest. Travis, if you can take yourself off of mute, share where you're from, and go ahead with your question.
Good afternoon. I'm Travis Seaver. I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm 39, so I guess I'm the right age. I went to college I grew up in Illinois, Peoria, Illinois. Started at Walmart in college, going to college for my accounting degree, and this year will be my 20 years at Walmart. I've been in 4 states and been in 11 stores, so I move around a lot with the company. I have a 7, 4, and 3-year-old. My wife stays home with them, and we just really love the Indianapolis area. We've been in Chicago, St. Louis, a lot of other places, and we really want to make a home here. And I feel like I'm at the point in my life where I either need to decide I'm going to spend 40 years at Walmart or do something different. And I'm ready to take the next step, and really intrigued by what Signworld has to offer and that business. So I guess my question, and a few of my questions already been answered, so that was good. As far as just the day in the life of an owner, what does that look like, and how does that change in the first 6 months, a year, 2 years? Because I have 14 salaried managers, I have 350 associates and 6,000 customers a day, and I have to oversee HR, compliance, operations, kind of everything. And very servant leader, not afraid to get my hands dirty. And there's other days I'm in the office all day on Zoom calls and doing other things. But as far as a day in the life of the owner, is that out selling more? Is that at the warehouse helping teach and train, or is it at home on the computer? What does that look like?
Great question. Roger, day in the life of the owner, first 6 months in business, and how has it changed?
Well, first 6 months in the business, I was out and about. I had joined the local chamber of commerce. I had joined some networking groups, some business and leads group, and I would go to, I don't know, at least 2 meetings a day, and you're just talking the first 6 months, and then that kind of you back off of that a little bit. You start working with the customers. Fortunately, I hired a young man who's with me to this day. He's been with me for over 8 years now. He knew everything. So he did the artwork. He set the printer up. He printed it. He put it on the substrate. He took it out in the truck and installed it. So all I had to do was sell, which was a wonderful thing. And then that evolves over time. But I still selling's my favorite thing to do. I have less of it to do now, because I'm working on my business. I've got a team now. I've got 13 people. I've got to encourage and provide an environment in which they can grow and becomes a rewarding career kind of thing, as opposed to just another job. And that's the thing I find most challenging and rewarding at the moment.
Very good. Thank you, Roger. Hamid?
Well, I'm still fairly new in the business, but for me, the transition was kind of difficult because I came from a very highly educated and high value, high tech environment where, by the time a person comes into the office, he's been checked with 5 other HR people, and they know that he's not carrying a gun or anything like that, and the person is not doesn't have a record or anything like that. And here you're dealing in a very different environment. So that transition you have to manage. But I'm very proud because I have, out of my 4 employees, 2 of my employees have a record, and they have felony records, and I'm working with them to get that off their records. But they are obviously gainfully employed, and for the first time in their lives, they're actually getting promotions and bonuses. So it's something that you can do in this job that I couldn't do it in Silicon Valley. Nobody needs my help there. And so that's something that you may want to keep in mind. So I think that in a lot of ways it's very rewarding. I think one of the things I would advise people is this is definitely a customer-oriented business. I don't think you can make a lot of money by being a very good engineer and finding the lowest cost of a vinyl. I think you can make a lot of money by helping your customer grow so that they can make more signs. This is definitely a top line business, not a bottom line business, not a cost business. It's a revenue business. And
so
I think,
Hamid,
go ahead.
No, please finish your sentence, then I'll ask you another question.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that, so I think your day to day, if you can keep your focus on your customer, and that's what I've been trying to do every day, just feel, build that empathy for your customer. What would the customer want best for them? And so if I have 100 hours of attention in a month for them, I put 99 of them on revenue and 1 of them on the cost side.
So when you think about what you did those first 6 months as far as being in the operation, out of the operation, what type of activities were you doing when you're out of the shop? What were you doing when you were in the shop?
Well, as luck would have it, I started the business and COVID came along to join me. So networking and all that stuff kind of went out the door. So I doubled down on digital marketing, obviously, and I was very comfortable with that space. So I focused on that, and then I, coming from the technology background, I also did a lot of process automation. I focused on working on the business. Like today, every time a phone rings, it creates a lead for me and it enters my CRM system. I don't have to hire anybody to write anything down. It goes straight into my lead system. From there, it goes straight into my, project management system. And the most beautiful part of it goes straight into an invoice and it asks the customer for the money. And I don't even have to touch it. So you can do all these things. So that way, you don't hire people to push papers. You hire people to actually work with customers, rather than doing grunt work, which I hate, and I hope my employees hate too. So that's kind of how I spend my time.
Thank you, Hamid. Mike, if you can think back to the first 6 months in business, what did you spend your days and hours doing?
Well, the first 6 months, I was like Roger. I spent a lot of time networking. And what I'd say now, looking back on it, it's a waste of time. So, it's kind of the other thing that, and you probably have to work through it to learn it. The other thing is, for me, it's easy to get bogged down in the short-term tactical stuff and not do the things that will help the business grow on the long term. So that's maybe two things I spent time on that I would do less of. But I guess where I've evolved to in terms of where you know, I was listening carefully to Hamid. I thought he was kind of saying for a minute there that spending your time on the customers is important, that customers come first. And, you can never go wrong with that. But interestingly, Herb Kelleher, when he founded Southwest Airlines, said employees come first. And that's kind of the angle that I've taken, that it's not possible to provide outstanding customer service unless you have an outstanding team. And then the other twist on that is we've evolved towards a model of over time of hiring people who are closer to entry level rather than more experienced. So we have people that I think have very good potential, but there are people who require more coaching and mentoring and training. And so, that's where I try to spend more of my time now.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. Jack?
Now, Travis, I want to take it back to where you're currently at. And you're right now in a business with hundreds of employees and thousands of customers. This is a handful of employees, even starting with just one, and a handful of customers. Going back to Ken's point that you want to make the most money with the least number of people, both customers and employees. Make it in a simpler business where you're much more involved with the customer, with the transaction, with helping them with their business. There's a lot more satisfaction to that than having this churn of employees and churn of projects and churn of customers. It's just a happier life. So you're focused in the beginning on building relationships with these customers, then long-term nurturing them. I met with my top customers several times a week because we had multiple projects going on at any given time. It's a whole different environment than where you're at right now.
Very good. Jack, can you go ahead and share your slideshow in the background while we continue with the next questions?
I'll get that ready, yes.
Perfect, thank you. Let's go to our next guest. Jason, if you can take yourself off of mute, introduce yourself, where you're from, and go ahead with your question, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Karen Knott. My husband, Jason, is here with me. We live in upstate New York. We have 2 grade school kids. A lot of our questions have been answered going through, so I really appreciate everyone's time today. I think the scariest thing for us right now is our heart is definitely in the mountains. We would like to move our family to the Colorado type area. And so we're looking to not only create a business that replaces our income, but also move at the same time. And we've been batting back and forth. What order we do things in? Is it possible? Is it insane? My question was going to be, how many years of income do we need to support the family? And that was answered. So I think I'll go a little bit deeper and say, did anyone move to create their business?
Well, we absolutely have someone who did that. So as Jack's getting his slideshow ready, let's let Hamid answer your question, because he definitely took that leap of faith.
Yeah, no, I think, so I used to live very close to Jack in Orange County, North Carolina, California. And I had decided to leave HP over there, and we wanted to be back home because my wife is from North Carolina. And I loved her, and I loved also all my money, so I had to follow her. So we actually moved here, and I think, my experience from that was that, because of the sign business, it is actually, you don't have to go back to your existing huge customer base. You can actually use digital marketing to create your network and create the business flow. That worked out. I moved here in January, and the family moved in December. So I was here for 12 months living in an apartment and starting the business. And it actually, I think it looked very hard when it was in the process, but I wouldn't change anything, because I think if you are ever going to move in the next 5 or 6 years, you should definitely move and then start a business. I wouldn't recommend that you start a business in New York and then try to relocate the business to Colorado. that would be just doing it twice. So my recommendation would be to definitely move, and I think there is really no. I don't think you're taking that much extra risk by moving to a new place, because signed customers are signed customers as far as the business is concerned, and they are everywhere.
Very good. Thank you, Hamid. Roger, you didn't move necessarily, but if you were considering it, do you see any downsides to it? What would you say to someone like Carroll who's considering moving and starting fresh?
Yeah, with regard to their specific situation, I would recommend you make the move and go right at it, because it's a whole new world. You're getting into a whole new kind of thing. It helps to have connections, of course, but basically, I had moved down to Texas for a job, lost that job in the first 11 months, and then started the business. So, I sort of did that by default, or not through no fault of my own, but I got on the wrong side of a merger and it happened. So if you're thinking about a move, yeah, go for it, because it's a great way to engage with your new environment, meet new people, and, become endeared to the community. So from that point of view, it helped me.
Very good. Thank you, Roger. Mike?
Yeah, we didn't exactly move at the same time as starting our business. We moved to California from the East Coast 3 years before we started the business. So it was relatively new to us. And then we specifically wanted to have our business in the same town where we lived for a couple reasons. One, it's a nice town. And also, my commute is 7 minutes during rush hour. And then the other thing that if you have to spend your time networking, I don't know if I mentioned I didn't like doing that, but if you have to do that, I figured you might as well be doing it in your town where you're meeting your neighbors and people you know and interacting with them. So I guess all of that put together, I could see that you'd want to move and then start your business in your new location.
Very good. Jack?
We have at least a handful of new owners every year that move and then start a business. We've got a gentleman right now moving from Venice, Italy to Phoenix. So your move is much less than his. What you're going to find is that a year from now, you're going to know more people in your new community than you ever knew in your old, because you're making signs for the local schools, churches, hospitals, civic organizations. You're going to immerse yourself in the new community and be more involved than you ever were where you live currently.
Very good perspective. Thank you. All right, let's go to our next participant. Doug, if you can go ahead.
Jeannie?
Oh,
Jeannie?
yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
I moved from San Francisco to Honolulu, Hawaii. I didn't know a soul. So to Mr. and Mrs. Knott, go for it. If that's where you want to live, do it. Move there, get settled down, start your own business, and never look back. Go for it.
Thank you, Ken. Doug, Edge, if you can take yourself off of mute, share where you're from, and go ahead with your question, please.
Hi there. Happy New Year to everybody. Thanks again for letting me dial into one of these. It's always a lot of good information. The question I had in a previous call was more for the owners that along the lines of equipment. What was the first piece of equipment you thought you needed that didn't come with the initial one? And now it's more toward a marketing sales type question. So did you find that you tried to drive your business in a direction because you thought maybe the need was there, or from an advertising and an internet or just a customer need standpoint, it was the other way around, where that need is what just directed your business and where everything went and what the majority of your sales and your niche is?
Great question. So Mike, as you started your business, did you target any specific customers, or did you just work with customers that came to you? And as you look at your business today, have you developed a niche, and how did that evolve?
I think that, there's two parts to that for me. One is, I think you want to do what you like to do. So, what does that mean? And, as an engineer, I like solving problems, and for a variety of reasons, we gravitated towards bigger and more complex projects. So, that's one of the things. The second thing, which was probably less intentional and more just happenstance, is we kind of starting out gravitated towards where our initial employees were experienced, because you've got somebody that knows a little bit about the industry. I think we still have lots of opportunity, even after 10 years, to do a better job of, really market-based, rather than focus on the customers that we're familiar with or the customers that come to us, to really go after the customers that we want to go after. And, I think that's probably the next phase of our marketing approach.
Very good. Thank you, Hamid. I'm sorry, Hamid, how about you?
Yeah, I think, obviously when we started, there were two of us. And fortunately for me, my number one employee who's still with me used to be a sign shop owner. And he was an artist, and he is an artist. And so I still have to discover a sign that he cannot make. Anything I show him, the answer is always yes. And then my job is to figure out what the risks we have to take on his yes. So I then ask him 25 other questions. And then together we determine whether we want to take on the job or not. So in a way, we were kind of blessed, and we started using digital marketing, and that kind of brought all the business to us. Only in the last year, we have started analyzing our business by product category. So we have now divided our business, roughly $1 million of revenue, into 7 categories, essentially channel letters, cabinet signs, vinyl, vehicle wraps, and those sort of things. And based on that, we are now in a position to actually look at what we're good at, what we're good at making it money at, where we can have velocity. Can we turn around from beginning to end? Can we do it in 60 days instead of 185 days? And based on that, we are kind of focusing our marketing time. So it's really a process. And that's something I like to do. That's how we want to. So I think next year we'll be picking and choosing our business, but so far, we've taken everything you can get so far, if that answers your question.
Very good. Thank you, Hamid. Roger?
Yeah, it started out pretty much based on my first hire. And I think that, we kind of gravitated towards things that he was comfortable with. And a lot of that, fortunately, was also electrical in nature. So we not only did the initial vinyl work, but we also were able to get into electric signs fairly early on. And then it becomes a matter of, what you enjoy, what you're good at, and what you can make some money at. But I will tell you this, it's a lot of fun now.
Very good. Thank you, Roger. How about you, Jack?
The alternative to Signworld is joining a franchise where the customer base is predefined, and the product or service is predefined. And you got to hope you like it. That may be an easier choice for you. The beauty of Signworld is that we touch virtually every type of customer in business, and signs is everything from a name badge to a billboard. So the equipment is going to allow you to make about 75% in-house with your staff and your equipment, having a roster of manufacturers to make the other things. And so as you talk about picking the risk of the product, and you take what you can and what you want to do, avoid the ones you don't want to do. And then over time, your niche is going to evolve either based on the type of customer you like, the types of products you like to do, or the talents and abilities of your staff. And by doing that, you end up happier long-term because you pick the business rather than the business picking you.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Chris, if you can go ahead and take yourself off of mute and share where you're from, and go ahead with your question, please.
Hi, I'm Chris Engler. I'm from Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada, and it's just as cold as Calgary. Unfortunately, going last, most questions that I have been asked. I guess for employees, is there any retention issues, or is all good with that?
Great question. Roger, let's start with you. Do you find it hard to retain your employees?
Well, in the beginning, yeah, because I didn't focus as much on those things that promotes that as I did actually selling signs. You're kind of wrapped up in the process of generating revenues. And, once we got pretty good at that, then, you got to have retention in your employees in order to be efficient in your installations and so forth. So we kind of, about midway through, I pivoted somewhat and began to include employee recognition programs and things that promoted a sense of team, so that those folks would stick around longer and we would be more efficient in the delivery of our products and services. So it differs depending on where you're at in the process.
Thank you, Roger. Hamid?
Yeah, I think, the employee retention is an issue only if, in the beginning, I think we are kind of novice at what kind of people we bring in and what kind of work they will enjoy, because we ourselves are learning. And so I'm hoping that, nowadays, of course, this is going to be a much bigger issue next year also, about bringing in new people, paying them obviously more than we paid them last year because of the inflation and everything. And I think what I think I would probably focus my attention on is, how do you match the employee with the culture that we are offering? So if they know exactly what they're getting into and we know what we want from them, if that is a match, I think that will work out better. But that's no substitute for competitive salaries. Like we give a lot of time off. We give free food and free drinks during the day. And those are small things. We make it, one of the cultures that we have tried to develop here is that we don't want to be your family. We want you to have your own family, and you should use this as a work so that you can make money and have fun. But you should have your own family and go somewhere else and make them happy. Yeah, we're not one of those people like Google who's going to give you a massage so that you can spend the night and work for free.
Although I've seen your snack shelf, I could stay at your place and spend the night and be fed just fine. I've seen your snacks. All right, very good. Mike, how about you? Is retention of employees an issue?
What I would say is that employee retention is a business decision and a business strategy. For example, McDonald's, the average turnover there, I think, is 12 months. And their systems are set up for that. That's the way they operate. That's how they hire and recruit and train and so forth. For us, I can't say we went into it with this upfront, but I would say we've evolved to where we believe that the average tenure for employees who are a fit for us is about 5 years. We're happy, we like it when it's longer for our good employees, and we set up our benefits and so forth to encourage retention. But we kind of have learned that we need to plan for something like a 5-year cycle. And then also, I know everybody reads the E-Myth. There's a point in there that I really like, that your business should be successful with good employees. It shouldn't take outstanding employees to be successful, because you should have good systems and processes. And I believe that. I mean, everybody's got a different approach, but that's our approach.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. Jack?
As in all businesses, you hire for talent, you fire for behavior. So you want to hire carefully. In the beginning, you've got to hire for the talent. But as the other owners have talked about, after that, you're hiring for culture and building it. This is a career, not a job. So the turnover of employees is much less than in most other industries in today's world. And as we talked about earlier, that's the biggest challenge today. But we have Signworld Owners as the original employee from 10 and 20 years ago. I had a very low turnover. I really worked on building culture. So if you hire carefully and nurture, it's not a big issue.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. We do have one more participant that has not yet asked a question.
Jeannie.
Yes, please.
To add to that, again, the beauty of this business is very few employees. You start with just one. most of all the other franchises that you're looking at, that you're evaluating right now, you're going to need a whole lot more employees very quickly in order to get up to that kind of an income that you used to enjoy. So again, the beauty of our business is very few employees, very few customers to make a very, very good income. Okay.
Thank you, Ken. Lee, you are our last participant to ask a question. Can you take yourself off mute, share where you're from, and please share your question for today.
Mute. At least I think I am. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yeah, Lee Hamblin here in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been exploring this for the last several months. Had the privilege of talking with Roger not many weeks ago. He was very helpful, and some of the other owners as well. And those owner calls have been fantastic, a lot of insights. I truly do appreciate that. Truly appreciate all your time as well today, because it's been useful hearing other people's questions and hearing the various answers from each one of you in your distinctive areas and backgrounds. I actually don't have too many questions because I've already peppered the owners with a bunch of my initial questions. I guess just one off the top of my head that I'm actually facing right now is when it comes time and you start laying the groundwork to build the business. Like I'm working with my accountant right now to figure out the structure. So I was just curious how you each have your business structured. Is it just straight LLC? Is it a C Corp? How do you have it structured and why? And and what benefits that structure brings to you?
Jack, go ahead.
First off, Lee, it depends on how you're funding the business, because if you're doing a 401 rollover, you have to be a C corporation. If you're not doing a 401, if you're doing an SB or other lending, then it's going to be an S or an LLC, and possibly eventually moving into an S or into a C corporation for tax benefits.
So with that,
I recognize that, and that's one of the reasons I'm exploring that right now. But I didn't want that to be the determining factor to doing a C Corp solely for the 401k rollover.
Okay. Mike, let's start with you. How did you set up your business?
We're an S Corp.
Any upside, downside that you would like to share?
No, I mean, that was 10 years ago. And at the time we investigated, we talked to our accountant, we talked to our business attorney, we looked at the pros and cons of various approaches. I probably couldn't even knowledgeably tell you now what the thinking was that went into that.
Okay, very good. Carroll, I'm sorry, Roger.
I'm an S Corp like Mike, but I didn't roll over. I would have been a C Corp if I had, but I went with the S Corp so I could use the startup cost losses, carry them back, and get refunded from prior year's taxes. I just wanted to chat.
Very good. Thank you, Roger. Hamid?
Yeah, I use my 401k, so I am a C Corp. I didn't have a choice.
Okay. Jack?
I was an S. Probably 90% of Signworld owners that have a 401 are using the 401 to avoid the capital gains tax at the other end of the business when you're ready to sell.
How about you, Ken?
C Corp, 401k rollover.
Okay, very good. Well, everyone, we have gone through our participants' questions. So it is 5 minutes past the top of the hour. I'd like to, first off, thank our panel of owners, Roger, Hamid, and Mike. Thank you so very much for taking time out of your day. This is really generous of you to do so. And we really appreciate you sharing your perspectives for these prospects that are considering Signworld as a business. And for our participants, we appreciate you joining us today as well. And we look forward to continuing these conversations in the path forward to identify if this is the right chapter in your lives. So thank you for joining us today. We wish you a great rest of the week and month of January and of 2022. Thanks all.